A Crown in Winter. Overview. There is to be a new empress. A greater majority of the Imperial Senate has voted to raise Vesna Bolkovna Proknost to the throne. In a dramatic and very public show of support, a judgment of veto was then put before the Assembly of Nine and immediately and unanimously voted down. Senator Vesna is now set to be appointed at the start of the next Senate session, beginning with the formality of her own ratification. Vesna's rise in the political sphere has been astounding. The youngest of 7 children, the young empress-to-be was raised on a pumpkin farm in the woods of Srodkova before leaving home to join the Wardens of the Grateful Hearth. Her first journey to Anvil was in the winter solstice of 382 YE, spending the year gathering allies and working to strengthen the nation of Varushka. She was elected senator for Ossium in winter 383 and re-elected again in 384. 2 terms during which she worked hard in the interests of the people, passing motions to extend the iron roads and appraise other improvements to the territory. Her service has not been entirely without controversy. She was called to inquisition for her part in the winter 383 YE treaty with the Thule, but the questioning passed without further resolution. During the autumn summit of 385 she received the support of the conclave, and shortly after, Vesna Bolkovna Proknost was elected to become the 21st empress. There is a war on, and the situation could be considered worse than when Empress Lisabetta took the throne. But the coronation of a throne is a significant event in the history of the empire. Even at the height of the Orc Rebellion, the coronation of Emperor Raz was followed by a night of revelry. Each new throne places an indelible mark on the empire, and their ascension never goes unmarked. Timing. The Imperial Senate voted to elect Vesna to the throne in the final Senate session at the autumn summit. According to imperial law, a motion passed by the Senate does not become law until the beginning of the next session, to give the Imperial Synod time to consider if they wish to veto the motion. The power of the Imperial Synod includes the right to veto all appointments, and since the election of a new throne requires a constitutional vote, it can be vetoed by the General Assembly or the Assembly of Nine. However, the judgment of veto must be submitted at the summit where the motion was passed. While the matter of the throne is so important that a coronation is always delayed until the beginning of the next session, it is still the case that any judgment of veto must be submitted at the same summit that a motion is passed. Of course, that is difficult when a motion passes the Senate in the final session of the summit, but that is why the civil service allow a small grace period after the final session is concluding to allow any eligible citizen to indicate that they intend to seek the veto. Thus, Senator Vesna will become the Empress at the start of the first Senate session, where her first responsibility will be to ratify her election. As such, the civil service are publicising the timetable for the coronation of the new throne, having liaised with the Empress-elect to agree on a schedule of events that will be arranged to celebrate this momentous occasion. The coronation. As is customary, the celebration of the coronation will begin on the second day of the summit with a tour of the nations, with the new Empress visiting each nation in turn. Citizens who wish to use this opportunity to make themselves known to the Empress should ensure they keep any personal matters brief, as the throne's journey will be carefully choreographed by the Speaker for the Senate to ensure it keeps to time. Nonetheless, there will be a small window for members of each nation to give the Empress a formal welcome in the traditional national style, if they wish to do so. The tour will begin in Highguard at 1:30 and proceed to Urizen, the Brass Coast, Dawn, Wintermark, the Imperial Orcs, the Navarre, the League, the Marches, before concluding in Varushka at approximately 3 p.m. Once the tour is complete, the coronation ceremony will take place near the centre of Anvil, where an area will be set aside with seating arranged for those that need it most. The Empress-elect has invited Kalina Yadvigovna Piosenkova Proknost to perform the coronation anthem. At 3:15 p.m, each nation will be invited to make a formal presentation to the new throne, in line with their hearth magic and customs. The presentations will begin with the Brass Coast, followed by Dawn, Highguard, the Imperial Orcs, the League, the Marches, Navarre, Urizen, Varushka, and concluding with Wintermark. Citizens who wish to represent their nation are advised to speak to their egregores. Once each nation has had a chance to make their presentation, there will be a dedication to prosperity performed by Ophelia Sanguino Rezia de Desato of the League. The Printers Guild will then present the imperial crown to the new throne. In a break from tradition, the Empress-elect has asked Belakova Zakharovich Proknost to crown her. Once she has been crowned, Empress Vesna will then deliver a short address. The closing of the ceremony will be marked by performance of the imperial anthem. Following the winter solstice summit and the formal coronation, There are traditionally parties across the Empire, accompanied by a celebratory address from the throne. You can learn more about these celebrations and what the throne's first address means both for the Empire and their reign in the A Sparrow in Spring Wind of Fortune. Quick edit. We have edited this Wind of Fortune. It originally said that the General Assembly had an impossibly narrow window in which they could theoretically veto this appointment. On closer reading of the Imperial laws on the wiki, we realise that this was not the case. Any veto does have to be submitted or sought at the event where the motion passes. That didn't happen in this case, and the deadline has now expired. We've edited this page accordingly. If we discover any other errors over this issue, we will note them on this page, but we won't change the outcome any further. The contents of this Wind of Fortune represent the final judgment of the Constitutional Court on this matter. Foreign dignitaries. It is common for foreign nations with whom the Empire has good relations to send representatives to Anvil to recognise the new throne. It is traditional for these dignitaries to bring gifts to honour the throne and for the Empress to receive from the throne. The civil service have set aside a brief period for these presentations, following the end of the coronation and before the Senate begins at 4 p.m. The governments of the Commonwealth, Faradon, Axos, Otgadov and Sarkafan have all indicated they intend to send a representative to acknowledge the new Empress. As a matter of protocol, foreign ambassadors are requested not to discuss political matters at this time. Any citizen who has business with the nation in question should ensure that they keep the matter until after the coronation has concluded. All gifts presented at this time are considered the property of the Empress, not the throne, and so it will be within the purview of the new Empress to dispose of them as they wish. Some thrones keep one or more of the gifts they receive at their coronation to remember the moment. In other cases, thrones have passed a dispensation of such gifts over to others. For example, Empress Teleri gave all formal gifts over to the Synod to determine suitably virtuous recipients, while Emperor Giovanni had almost all gifts he had received while on the throne auctioned through the Imperial Bourse. Addressing the throne. Each throne may choose their own forms of address. Traditionally, the throne is addressed as Their Imperial Majesty, but some thrones have chosen a different honorific. Emperor James, for example, preferred to be addressed as Your Honour, while Empress Rochilde favoured the Dornish Milady Empress. Most recently, Empress Lisabetta chose Imperatrix as her official title. While few people in the Empire put much store by personal titles, most citizens take a very different approach with the throne. The throne is chosen by the Senate, who hold their titles on behalf of the people of the Empire. As such, it is suggested that the throne stands as a symbolic representation of the Empire itself, and a failure to accord them due respect ultimately shows the citizen does not respect their own empire. At the very least, this can be seen as an abject failure of pride. By default, foreign dignitaries will refer to the throne by the traditional title unless otherwise instructed to do so. Out of character note. The coronation of a new throne is one of the most unique events in Empire. This is only the second time it has happened in the 10 years that Empire has been running. We've published a timetable for the coronation available on the wiki that is deliberately designed to allow a little time for members of each nation to create something special. This represents a singular opportunity for any player who wants to get involved in the celebrations to help make the occasion as momentous as possible. However, please bear in mind at all times that the new Empress is not a member of our NPC crew. They are a player and should be treated with the same courtesy and respect you would give to any other participant at the event. What are they arguing about? Cecilia asked. Leonatus was sat red-faced in his chair while Magistrate Abraham stalked up and down in front of him, waving his arms and trying not to shout. Eli leaned closer to her fellow civil servant so she could whisper more easily. Synod veto. Whether the General Assembly can still veto the appointment. Really? Cecilia queried in a hushed tone. I thought they settled that a week ago. Yup, said Eli slowly, grinning slightly. But a weather vane only moves when the wind blows, as they say. Cecilia threw a confused look at her more experienced colleague, so he pressed on. Abraham is notorious for changing his views every day. Polite people say he just listens to whoever he spoke to last. Less polite people suggest he can no longer remember what he thought yesterday. Anyway, he spoke with the Tribune of the Synod who convinced him that they could veto, so he spent yesterday trying to convince Leonatus that the thing they thought yesterday was now wrong. And now it looks like Leonatus has successfully changed his mind again. Wow, how long have they been at this? 6 days so far. All for something that's absolutely not going to happen. Yup, said Eli again. Welcome to the Castle of Thorns, Cecilia. The Empire thanks you for your service.